Are you deciding whether or not you should let go of the toxic, negative people in your life? In today's episode, we're going to talk about the different ways that you could evaluate if you should let them go and how you could go about in doing it and making it happen. First, I want to say understand that this is not an easy process when you're deciding whether or not you should let someone go. And you might be thinking of either someone that's from a romantic relationship, or a friend, or groups of friends, or a family member. All of that is hard, especially if they mean something to you, or they're helping you in some way, or maybe there's certain obligations between the relationships that makes it even more difficult. Or it could be due to other reasons like fear of loneliness, financial reasons, embarrassment, or just solid fear that something bad will happen if you were to leave. I get it, this is very difficult, but a very important one. And I'm very proud of you that you are thinking about this because it is an important decision that it could impact you in many ways. And you might be thinking, should I really let this person go? Am I going to regret this? How would I go about in doing it? And am I making the right choice? I'm going to give you 5 tips that you could go about in deciding whether or not you should let go of this person or a group of people. First, I want you to imagine or write out the list of pros and cons that you feel with this person, but go really deep when you are writing this out. So, for example, if you're writing out the pros, instead of writing, this person makes me happy, this person is great, actually write out what makes this person great and why this person makes you happy. So, for example, this person support me in the things that I do. This person was always there for me when I needed them. This person bring out the best in me. This person is honest with me. Whatever that is, write the pros down of why this person brings value into your life and why you appreciate this person and why you cherish this person. Now, in the cons, do the same thing. Go really in depth as to why this person is bad for you, the reasons why you are considering whether or not you should let them go. Go very detailed. It could be things like this person, they always disrespect me when I'm trying to have a conversation with them. This person make me feel less than. This person makes me feel ugly. This person, just all the things that makes you feel as to the reason why you are deciding to let this person go, write them down. Now, step 2, I actually want you to take a look at the pro list that you either just write out or you have in your mind. Now, I want you to separate the healthy pros from the unhealthy pros. And you might be thinking, like, what do you mean by healthy or unhealthy? Okay, healthy pros are things that are the foundation or the most critical requirement of what you believe a good relationship is. So it could be things like if you personally value a lot of how someone treats you, if they respect you or not, or the religion or whatever, right? Like these are things when we say the value that this person brings. What is a value to me could be a different value to you. So you gotta think deep within yourself. What are some of the fundamental requirements that makes up a great relationship? Those would be your healthy pros. So for me, for example, it will be things like this person respect me as an individual. They inspire me to be the better version of myself. They believe in me. They make me feel like I could do more than I believe I can. They make me feel like I could be myself. Like, these are the things that I fundamentally cherish in a relationship, and they're not nice to have. They're like must have in a relationship. So those are the things that you will put into that healthy pros group. And now you have your unhealthy pros. These are the things that are like a drug. Like, you are a drug addict where this person is giving you these values or pros that gives you that high that's not lasting. There's no foundation with it. It's just like a moment of high, and it goes away and you want it again. This person gives it to you and you love it for like 5 minutes or whatever the time that lasts, and it goes away again. And these could be things like, for example, like material things. Things that, like, for me personally, I know that it's nice sometimes, but it doesn't last. So those will be your unhealthy pros. Or if you, let's say, are in a relationship and you're financially depending on this person, and you know that without this person's financial support, you are not sustainable on your own. Now that is unhealthy pro, because as much as it's like, okay, great that this person is supporting you in that way, but it's also not healthy for you because now you are relying on this support or else you can't survive, and that's unhealthy. Ideally, you might want to be financially independent, right? Like, you want to not have to rely on this person solely just for that. So that will be an unhealthy pro, even though you might put that in a pro list, like, oh, this person's providing for me in this way. But you know that it's not healthy in the sense that if you could have it your way, you would be providing that yourself, and that shouldn't be an option for you to be with this person. Okay, so that will be your healthy versus unhealthy pros. Now that you have that down in a paper or on your mind or a computer, now I want you to take a step back and imagine that you are now in the last day of your life. And it doesn't have to be like today is your last day of your life. You just imagine you got old and now you're in the last day of your life and you're on your deathbed. And you're taking a moment to think back on, how was your life? Did you live to the fullest? And if you were to think about things that you are grateful for it to happen versus things that you regret you didn't do or did, what would those be? Right? So imagine you gone on your life the way that you think would happen, right? Or you want to happen, right? Like, likely wise, right? Like, if you think if you keep living this way, what are the likelihood of things that you would either experience or not experience, and you go on and you turn old. Now in that moment, you're old now. Imagine now you're on your deathbed. Think back to it, and what do you see in the list of things you regret or not regret? What would that be? So it could be things like, man, like, if I were to think back and I continue staying with this person for 30 years, 50 years, and imagine nothing changes either, right? Like, so don't say, well, what if things, no. Like, whatever it is right now that you're imagining that caused you to feel whatever you feel, just imagine that it doesn't get better. If anything, a little worse, you know? So if that were to be the case, and you stayed, and you imagine however the life it is, and now you're in your deathbed, how do you feel? When you think about what you regret versus what you enjoyed, I really want you to think through what those would be. Is it that you regret, man, I really wasted my life, that I just allowed myself to be stuck in that relationship, or allow these people to be around me for that long and things never got better? And I should have, if you thought I should have, that, I need you to remember that. And now when you think about the good memories, I also want you to think about that. Like, what comes to mind? Is it like the past? Like, do you still have good memories that you think are about to come about from continuing this relationship or this lifestyle that you have, take note on that one too. This is an exercise. So each of these steps that we're walking through, I want you to kind of either take a mental note on it or jog it down somewhere. Just to kind of reiterate, first we talked about imagining or writing out the pros and cons of this person, of group of people that you're trying to evaluate whether or not they should stay in your life. And now looking at the list of the pros that you have either written down, separate that from healthy pros versus unhealthy pros, right? Healthy pros are things that really fundamentally how you define a good, healthy relationship to be, not nice to have, not the drugs that give you the high and keep you coming for more for that instant, but no, like fundamentally, those are the core things you need to have. And then your unhealthy pros, right? Things like drug addictions. You want the high, but you know that the drugs is not healthy for you. And then the third is imagining the last day of your life in your deathbed. If you continue that relationship with that person and now you have grown old, things hasn't changed for the better. If anything got a little bit worse or a lot worse, and now you're on your deathbed, I want you to be very honest with yourself. What would you regret in that moment? And what will be the good memories be like? Okay, so you have all of those down, you have all of those answers. Now, I want you to imagine a new scenario. Now, I want you to imagine a scenario where you have a clean slate with this person. Meaning, no, I'm not saying you started over with this person and it's the first day you met them again. I meant a clean slate, as in clean slate that this person is no longer in your life. You guys went through what you went through, right? Let's say tomorrow is the last day and you decided that's the day and I'm gonna end it. I'm not gonna allow whatever cons, bad things to continue to happen. And you have a clean slate and you have already gone through the hurt, the healing process, the you're okay again. You are okay, you're normal. You are now going to live your life. I want you to just take yourself to that day for a second. And now I want you to ask yourself, now what do you want to do? Now, how do you want to live your life? And I know this is a tough question because you might not have the answer right away where you know exactly like how you're going to go about, especially if the person or people around you really made up a lot of who you are because they impacted a lot of who you are. Self-esteem's rather good or bad, and now you kind of have to start over. Or maybe this person financially supported you for a long time and now you're not quite sure how to go about in financially supporting yourself. Like all of that are a legit question. And that is the point of this question, is for you to kind of think through how you would go about in doing that. Like you already healed, you already went through the hard, either breakup or letting go or stop talking to these people. You already gone through that and you're healing already. Now you're at a point where it's time for you to take the next step in your life to the direction that you want. What would you do? Right? It could be anything. It could be things like, okay, well, now that I need to financially start supporting myself, I'm going to start applying to jobs, looking for jobs. I probably have to maybe move back with my family for a bit so I have a place to stay or something, right? Like those are the things I want to start thinking about. Or maybe it is, something else where you're like, okay, well, loneliness was a huge thing. And you imagine yourself going through a really hard time of dealing with loneliness, and maybe some of your next step is to surround yourself with new people, meet new people, networking, maybe go on different dates or put yourself out there again or not, right? Like maybe your next step is like, you know what? I actually really want to see if I'm able to be independent and not be with anybody for a while and just grow. I want to learn more about certain topics or things that I always wanted to learn more. Any of those, right? It could be anything. I just want you to put yourself in that state for a second and start thinking about what would you do, right? Okay, here's our last step. I want you to compare what you just imagined last, which is what you are going to do now. Now that it's over, now that you're starting to feel better, now that you're ready to move on with your life the way that you want to live it, what those are, right? Like, have that in your mind what those are. Now I want you to compare it to the cons. And if you're like, wait, what do you mean by compare it to the cons? Okay, so let's say your last step, when you imagine what you're going to do next, let's say you were in a situation where you were financially supported by your partner, and now you are at a place where you need to start supporting yourself. So one of your next steps could be, okay, well, I guess I have to really start looking at the different jobs and interviewing and getting better at interviewing and finding a job that I really do enjoy and it's gonna pay enough and all of that, right? Let's say that's your next step. And then I want you to compare it to the list of cons that you wrote out earlier. So the things that made you want to leave them. So it could be things like, well, he always disrespected me when I talked to him. He always made me feel less than when I tell him about my dreams and my goals. He always made me feel like I don't belong, or she makes me feel like I'm not good looking enough, makes me feel ugly and not cherished. Like all of these things, I want you to compare to the list that you would be doing if you were on your own. And I want you to truly think and ask yourself, like, which one are you willing to endure more? So what I mean is, if you will have to choose how you were to suffer, let's say, because neither of them are good things and it's challenging to endure neither of these things, but you have to choose one. What would you rather endure, right? So would you rather continue feeling like you're getting disrespected, feeling less than, feeling cheated, feeling lied to, feeling degraded, whatever that you put down on your cons, compare it to the list of things that you would have to be doing if it's over. And I want you to ask yourself which one is harder for you to do, right? And there's like so many different examples. If, let's say, the reasons why it was hard for you to let go is the fear of loneliness. So your list of what you would do if now that you're single would be that you would have to be alone. You would have to enjoy time on your own or do something on your time, or whatever that fear is, right? Compare that to the cons. And maybe you don't want to be with this person because even you're with this person, they make you feel alone. So compare that list. And if there isn't an easy answer, right? Let's say you're like, oh, both of them is just terrible. Both of them is bad. I think they're just almost as equal as hard. But before you say they are just equally hard, I really, really double ask you to think again. Like, you have to choose one, which one's harder. And this now relates back to the third question that we said, third questions that we said, which is, imagine if it's the last day of your life. What was the regret that you have on your mind? Is it that you do, if the thought of continuing this relationship and allowing this person to continue to treat you the way they do, and you allowing yourself to continue to feel the cons that you felt, if that was one of the regret that's on your mind, then you put points into the cons is worse. So if your answer earlier was that they're about equal, you still don't have an obvious answer yet, which one is worse. Now I want you to kind of like +1 on the cons, and don't think too much on whether it's 1, 2, 3. Just +1 first. That means it weighs more. The cons is worse, okay? And let's say you're still like, well, I don't know. Okay, so you if you were on your deathbed and you think back to the regrets, one of the regrets would be that you staying with this person and allowing this person to continue to treat or make you feel the way you do. And if that's still not enough to convince you, now I want you to think back to the second question, which is when you divided your healthy pros and your unhealthy pros. And you have to be very honest with your healthy pros and unhealthy pros. Like, just because you like it, just because, they give you benefits, you put everything as healthy pros. Like, you're the judge, right? Because, the thing is, the reality is there's people where you have one that would think like material things is an unhealthy pro because you don't need it. It's nice to have. And then to some, it's like, no, it's an indication of love. Like, if you are unwilling to give me all your money, then you don't love me, right? Like, I don't know to what extent, but what I'm trying to say is that everyone's different and what they value is different. And it's completely okay as long as you have to, be honest with yourself. Is this really something that you cannot live without? Or is it like a nice to have? Right? Like, if you have 5 things that you're like, okay, these are all pros, and you only have to pick 3 that it's like a definite that you need in a relationship, what would that be? The other 2 will probably be like either nice to have or whatever. But unhealthy pros in particular, what really distinguishes them from just regular healthy pros is that they are like a drug, right? Like they just give you a high that doesn't last, right? So another crazy example would be like, let's say they're like, okay, well, this person treat me really, really badly, but like the sex is good. It's like, oh, but to some people, maybe sex is so important, right? Like, that's like the most important thing. Then they have a reason to put that as a healthy pro. But, if it's just like, well, it's good, but it's not something that you're like, you need in your relationship all the time, and like no one else could give it to you, then perhaps that's an unhealthy pro because it's not a good enough reason for you to stay. Or just like it's temporary, right? And you perhaps could even find that elsewhere. So lastly, what I'm trying to say is, if after you thinking through your pros and cons and imagining what you would regret if you continue this relationship, and if you would regret it, also deciding whether or not, like, if your cons is actually worse than what you would have to do when you are now done with this person, and you still don't know, now you look at that list of healthy pros versus unhealthy pros, and you tell yourself, are the pros legitimate that this person's giving you? Or is it most of them is just unhealthy pros? It's like the highs, it's like drug. It just gives you a high and that's it. So if your answer to all of this is that the cons weighs more, then you have your answer. You should let go of this person because this person is preventing you from really getting to what you want in life. And by continuing with this person, you already know where is that going to bring you. You're going to regret it. And you have a choice right now to not make that regret. And the thing is, a lot of the times we forget how short life really is. We live day to day and we're sad a couple of days, couple of weeks, couple of months. Months turn into year turn into years. And even then you still feel like there's so much more to live. But as you grow older, you realize that time passes faster. And first of all, growing old is not guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. So if you truly took the time to imagine that moment where you're in your deathbed and you think back to see what you will regret, knowing what you know now, and if you know that you would regret this decision of staying and it's not what you want, and you know how precious life is, you only have one life. That's all you know right now. You have this one life. You could do whatever you want to enrich it and live it the way you want and make the best of it. So you have no regrets. You experience, you try. The most important part is you tried. And I want to make it really clear too with this whole like deciding whether or not you should let someone go is that you should really truly ask yourself, did you try to rebuild this relationship first, right? Like, it could be a friend, it could be a lover, it could be a partner, it could be a family member, right? Like, before you decide all of these good and bad, I hope you have at least tried a few times on fixing this relationship, right? So whatever cons that you have listed out, I hope that you have expressed those cons to that either person or group of people in some way or form, right? Because there is a huge trend of what have you that relationship nowadays ends so quickly and so soon, and not a lot of people try hard anymore. No relationship is easy, right? Like, so don't think that whatever cons that you have listed out of this person will never exist to another, right? But what you can do is try your best to at least let this person know how you feel, and that if they really don't try to fix it, and you know that your request is reasonable and logical, then you make that decision to leave. So you want to make sure that you also do your part to actually try to fix it. And if it's not fixable, you tried and it's not working, then yes, take those 5 steps, evaluate whether or not if it's the right move for you, and prioritize your needs, prioritize your life. Again, life is short and you don't want to waste it because for this other person. Because one thing you need to remember is on their deathbeds and they already haven't made you a priority, you're probably not even a thought in their mind. They're probably thinking of something else, someone else, whatever that may be. You have to think about yourself. You have to think about what's right for you and what you need and how you could get there. So, yes. And also, of course, like one last thing I would say too, if you're where you are in your relationship is not, just about deciding whether or not you want to leave, is that you don't feel safe in your relationship, you feel like your life is in danger, or you're in a abusive relationship physically or emotionally, then please do seek professional help. Right? That's serious, and the decision to make that is definitely not as easy as those 5 steps. So I highly encourage you to find professional help for that. But if you're someone that have the power to decide to leave and you're just not sure how or if you should do that, then do that 5-step exercise to see how you could go about doing it. I hope you find these 5 steps helpful in deciding whether or not you should let these people go, and are thinking about how these decisions can potentially grow you and allow you to live the life that you dream of and not have any regrets. Please subscribe to my podcast to learn more about things you should know on relationships and business hacks. Talk to you next week. Bye.